what are some of the things, and I'll ask each of the panelists this, from a technical skills, chops, you know, there's immersive audio and Atmos, there's audio over IP and Dante and RedNet. What are some of the technical things that this audience should be thinking about? Because if you're going to hire somebody for a project, they just got to know that. What are some of the table stakes?
They need to know more than I do. No, but seriously, they need to be so eager to read every manual, every information out there about the technology and follow the technology, you know? Be current with the technology. It's moving super, super fast. I mean, when I started, and we're talking about 1992, we still use tape, but it was the first integration of digital tape. We're using a lot of the Mitsubishi Digital, the Sony Digital tape, Pro Tools, the beginning of Pro Tools. We're using Pro Tools. Actually, I was one of the first people ever to use Pro Tools so much in a recording studio. But back then, we couldn't even synchronize things properly. So we will talk to technology people to develop new firmware, new things to be able to actually synchronize things and be able to use it, right? I remember working with Dr. Dre, and we'd be in sessions, and we wanted to do something, and then we had trouble synchronizing things, and those were different times, and whoever knew a little bit more than the other about technology will get the gig. Basically, that's how it goes. So you need to be at the forefront of technology. You need to always refresh yourself with the new information, you know, and integration of that technology. That's super important. Not just know the technology, but imagine uses for it. Even uses that other people are not talking about. So you can actually be a little bit of an innovator in your own circle. And that brings a lot of value to whoever you are working with or who you are working for. I never like to say somebody's working for me. I only want people that work with me, okay? I treat them as equals as long as they step up to the plate. And very, very early on, they get to have huge responsibilities. Not the small ones, but really, really big ones. But I always tell them, if you fail, don't be so focused on failing. Be focused on being great at it. Because if you fail, you're going to have a second opportunity. It's not just like where somebody's going to kill you or something, right? And that's where because that's where you actually learn the most. Your first failures are the biggest learning lessons for life. Not in that very moment, but for life. You will always remember what went through that very moment. And I'm not talking about the specific failure, but what was going through your head right before you failed. What actions you took and which ones you didn't take or you ignore. You know, tell signs that something was going to be wrong, but you didn't follow your instinct. You have to basically follow your instincts 24/7 in this industry.
Thanks, Rafa. Next over to Dave. Dave, you and I have recently spoken. I know you recently helped with solutions for the Super Bowl broadcast. I also learned something from Dave in conversation this week I didn't realize. Do you know, talking about immersive audio, I didn't realize this, there's more Dolby Atmos certified rooms in Nashville.
In the city of Nashville.
Than any place else. So
anywhere.
Dave's kind of got his finger on the pulse of, like, what technical chops do you need to have, and what things do you need to know, because the industry's changing, as Rafa mentioned, really rapidly. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Well, and it feels like it's almost lightning with it, right? Even though Atmos has been around, it's the adoption of it. And let's be fair, it's, Tidal helps. Apple really helps. When they decided to get behind Atmos and their spatial audio version of it, it just really helps pushing that technology, because now you've got so many different ways that you can work with that technology. You can sit on your laptop with a DAW and do Atmos on headphones. It's not the same as being in a room with it, but it definitely helps. And it's keeping up. Like, what a great way to say it. You have to know the technology. I started right at the tail end of tape. and we already had a Pro Tools machine. So it was straight to Pro Tools. So when I started recording on tape, I had to go backwards. And it was so funny to go, oh, that's why they call it that. Like we were saying the scrub function. It's like, because you would scrub the tape. It's just one of those things of you learned that history of it. But to keep ahead or be on top is really where you really want to be, because of all of these things that are changing so incredibly fast. And it's hard for big environments to keep up because they're already keeping up with so many other things, that being light and fluid sometimes really can help you as students, because you can walk into these environments, be a good hang, don't be pushy, find your place to say it, but then say, oh, I can help with all of this.
Thanks, Dave. Henry, I'm thinking for you, and this was part of conversation last evening at dinner too, not only the World Games, Henry's working on a project with PBS over the next several years. So there's television, films, you've got a film that won some awards. What about from your perspective? That's like our other panelists, there's a significant variety of different kinds of projects you're working on. What do the students in the audience need to know?
I think the most important aspect of being a technologist is to make sure whomever you're going to work with, that you can add value. And Rafa said it in passing, but it's so important. If I have to engage you, you can be smart, you can know a lot. But if I have to tell you every step that I need you to do, then I might as well do it. And typically what will happen is, I'm going to do it much faster than the time I take to tell you to do it. So usually I always tell students, make sure you know who you're working with, what their needs are, and add value to them. So if you're going to an internship, learn about that company. If you're going to hang with Rafa or me or whomever, know what they need, what they're doing. And so usually that's the first thing I think about. On interns I recommend, and on interns that I want to have work with me. I think the other part of this about learning technology, you have to be a sponge. There was a time when we would open our head, pull it back, and you expect a teacher just to pour things in your head, chapter 1 all the way to the end of the book. We have a hyper-learning environment now that has really gone through the roof logarithmically. You have to pick up every magazine. I can remember when MIDI was a magazine. You know, and I would read that magazine, and I have stacks beside my bed. And this is what I do. I get the magazine, I fly through. I'm interested in that, I'm interested in that. I fold it back, I'm interested in that. And then I go back. I've been doing this for decades, and I still do it.
Same here. You know, no, seriously, that's part of a great technique. Yeah.
It's the only way you can stay, because there's no academic book. By the time the book is published, guess what? It's out of date. So the best way you can stay current is to do that. And my wife hates it because stacks of magazines by my bed. But this is the way you have to learn and love learning. And there's just no substitute for that.